The scream would come later. For now, the valley was quiet. So quiet, it almost felt like the land was holding its breath. A soft curtain of morning mist drifted over the Mbala Reserve, glowing gold as the rising sun warmed the tall grass. In that gentle light, nothing looked dangerous. Nothing looked cruel. The world seemed young and innocent again. Kito. A baby rhino, barely the height of his mother's shoulder, waddled through the dew-covered grass with slow, clumsy steps. Every few moments, he paused to nudge a beetle, nose a clump of flowers, or simply listen to the wind brushing through the reeds. Beside him walked his mother Masai, full-grown rhino whose skin carried the scars of droughts, predators, and poachers. She nudged her son forward whenever he lagged behind, but her motions were patient and warm. This land was their home. Mornings like this were rare gifts. The smells of the valley mixed together. Wet earth, and wild herbs, the faint sweetness of acacia blossoms. Kito breathed them in with wide-eyed wonder, his small ears flicking at every rustle. His mother stepped carefully, her heavy feet sinking into the soft soil. Tiny birds rode on her back, hopping lightly as though she were simply another moving hill in their landscape. Not far away, hidden in the thick forest that bordered the valley, a huge silverback gorilla named Baru sat quietly, his dark eyes scanning the hillside below. His troop, 3 females and 2 playful youngsters, ate shoots and leaves behind him, but Baru barely moved. He inhaled deeply, letting the rich smell of morning fill his lungs. He listened to the steady rhythm of the forest, insects humming, branches shifting, the distant call of hornbills. Everything sounded normal, but something beneath the surface felt wrong. Bar. He lifted his head again. His nostrils flared. A strange scent drifted on the breeze, cold, sharp, metallic. It didn't belong to the forest. It didn't belong anywhere in this safe corner of the reserve. The silverback's chest rumbled with a low, uneasy growl. One of the females glanced toward him, sensing the tension in his body, but she said nothing. The gorilla stood slowly, his huge frame rising like a moving mountain, and stared toward the valley. Down below, unaware of the silverback's concern. Kito's excitement pulled him farther and farther from his mother's side. He chased a butterfly through the tall grass, stumbling every few steps, squealing softly each time he nearly fell. Masai grunted for him to come closer, but the little rhino only gave a playful shake of his head. The world was big. The world was bright. Nothing bad could happen on such a beautiful morning, but the grass ahead of him swayed in a strange, natural way, like something beneath it had been disturbed recently. Kito didn't notice. He pushed forward, following the butterfly until it drifted into a small grove at the far end of the valley. The air there felt cooler, still almost too quiet. Masai stepped forward, her instincts prickling. Something about that grove made her heart race. She could not smell the danger yet, but she felt it in old. Deep instinct passed down through generations of rhinos who had survived things far worse than predators. She called to Kito again, louder this time. He paused. He turned. And then, like all young animals who haven't yet learned fear, he took one more step. Up in the trees, Baru tensed. His eyes widened. He didn't know why, but he felt a shift in the valley, like the land itself was warning him. His troop froze when he let out a sharp grunt. The silverback leaned forward, fists pressing into the soil. Something was happening out there. Something he could not ignore. Kito pushed through the grove's hanging leaves. The shadows wrapped around him like cool hands. The butterfly he followed vanished into the trees, but he no longer cared about it. The air smelled strange here, not like flowers or grass, but like metal. Like something broken and forgotten. His small feet brushed over a patch of flattened earth. Masai charged forward, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. She couldn't see him. She couldn't hear him. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Baru stepped out of the tree line, slowly at first, then with growing urgency. His troop stayed behind, confused, but they trusted their leader enough not to follow. The silverback's dark shape moved silently over the slope. Eyes fixed on the grove below. Inside the grove, Kito sniffed the ground. A tiny piece of wire, thin as a vine, glinted beneath a leaf. He tapped it with his foot. The earth snapped. The sound was small, maybe even gentle, but the effect was instant. Grass exploded upward. Soil burst into the air. Something whipped tight around Kito's leg with a force he could not understand. Pain shot through him like fire, flashing white across his mind. His scream tore through the valley, a trembling, terrified cry that shattered the morning peace. Messiah roared, her voice echoing across the plains as she charged full speed toward the grove. Birds scattered from the trees, wings beating in a frantic storm of feathers. Baru froze mid-step. The scream sliced straight through him. It wasn't a guerrilla cry, but fear was universal. Agony was universal. He didn't think he ran. Kito thrashed in the dirt, trying to pull his leg free, but every movement only made the wire bite deeper. The trap held him like the jaws of an invisible predator. Dust rose around him in thick, choking clouds as he fought to escape. His cries grew higher, louder. Sharper each one, burning the air. Messiah crashed into the grove moments later, pushing aside branches and smashing through the undergrowth with desperate strength. She reached her son and tried to lift him, nudge him, pull him free, but the wire only tightened. Blood began to drip down Kito's leg, dark against the dry soil. Bar, you arrived at the grove's edge, panting, chest heaving. The sight before him hit like a blow. The frantic mother, the trapped baby, the cruel glitter of metal cutting into soft skin. His instincts screamed to stay away. Rhinos were dangerous, especially mothers in distress, but something deeper pushed him forward. He stepped into the clearing. Messiah swung her massive head toward him, snorting wildly, warning him to stay back. But Baru didn't retreat. He pounded the ground once with his fist, not in challenge, but in determination. He moved toward the trap. A quiet hush fell over the grove as if even the trees were watching. Kito's cries grew weaker. Messiah's breath came in rough, shaking bursts. Baru crouched low, studying the wire, his black eyes calm but filled with urgency. The world had changed. Innocence was gone. Danger was real and close, and though none of them knew it yet, what happened next would break hearts across the world. Kito's scream shook the grove like a living thing, echoing off the trees and sinking into the soil as if the earth itself felt his pain. His small body twisted helplessly in the dirt, the cruel wire wrapped around his leg, pulling tighter each time he kicked. Messiah pushed her huge horn beneath him, trying again to lift him free, but the trap only cut deeper, forcing another broken cry out of her baby's throat. Her panic filled the air like heat, sharp and overwhelming. She was a mother who had survived drought and lions and long nights alone in the dark, but nothing she had faced, not even the loss of her first calf, felt as terrifying as this moment. She pressed her head against Kito's side, her breath loud and ragged, her instinct begging her to save him, even as the trap fought back. The wire was meant for animals much larger than Kito, and it held him with a cold, unyielding grip. Every time he moved, the metal bit into him like teeth. Dust swirled around them in frantic clouds, clinging to his trembling skin. Kito's breaths came shorter now, as if fear was squeezing the air out of his lungs. His soft eyes, once bright with curiosity, were wide with terror. They darted from his mother to the trees, searching for something, anything that could make the pain stop. Bar, you entered the grove with a force that felt almost unreal, his massive shoulders brushing branches aside as if they were nothing more than blades of grass. The silverback's dark fur shone with sweat, and each thundering step sent vibrations through the ground. His troop remained far behind, hidden among the trees, refusing to cross into the chaos below. Baru had no such hesitation. He knew danger when he saw it. He also knew suffering. And the scream he had heard, a scream made by a baby, powerless and alone, had pulled him toward this place with a courage even he did not fully understand. Messiah swung her horn toward him, snorting, warning him to stay away. Her fear was thick and raw, and in her panic she saw everything as a threat. But Baru stood firm. He lowered his head slightly and thumped his fist once against the dirt, not in challenge, but in calm defiance, as if to say, "I mean no harm. Let me try." The rhino mother hesitated, her breath steaming from her nostrils, her muscles quivering with adrenaline. For a brief moment, their eyes met hers, wild with fear, his steady and ancient, filled with something like understanding. Then, slowly, she stepped back just enough for him to approach the trap. Kito whimpered as Baru drew near, his little body stiffening. The silverback crouched low and examined the wire, sniffing it, touching it gently with his thick fingers. He understood nothing of how humans built these traps, but he knew enough to see the danger in the way it tightened. He pounded the ground beside the stake once, testing it, judging its strength. The metal didn't move. The snare was buried deep, anchored by hands that had never cared who suffered in their nets. "Bar, you grunted, frustration rumbling in his chest. He struck the stake again, harder this time. Dirt flew upward. The grove trembled under his strength. Masai watched with wide, uncertain eyes, torn between hope and terror. If the gorilla could break the trap, her baby might live. If he failed, Kito's cries would never stop. The world around them swirled in chaos, dust rising, leaves shaking, birds calling warnings from the treetops. The air felt thick and strange, as if time itself had slowed to watch the struggle unfolding below. Keto's breath became a rapid, trembling rhythm. Each inhale a battle, each exhale a plea. His tiny body was growing limp. Exhaustion pressed down on him like a heavy blanket. Then Baru struck again, and the entire grove seemed to jump at that exact moment. Ranger Lena burst through the bushes. Drawn by the cries that had cut through her morning patrol like a blade, she carried a camera in one hand and a tranquilizer rifle slung over her shoulder. Her breath caught between fear and disbelief. When she first saw the Rhino baby gorilla, her heart slammed against her ribs. Every ranger knew the rules of the wild. Silverbacks and rhinos do not mix, especially not like this. She expected violence. She expected blood. She expected to watch two powerful animals destroy each other in fear, but instead, she found herself staring at something she had never witnessed in her years on the reserve. Baru was shielding the baby. He placed his huge body between Kito and the snare, beating against the ground, not in anger, but in desperate effort to free the trapped calf. Lena froze. Her breath caught in her throat. She lifted her camera without thinking, her hands shaking as she recorded the moment. It felt unreal, like something pulled straight from an old legend told around a fire, not a modern rescue in the heart of Mbala. Masai didn't attack the gorilla. She didn't attack Lena either. She stood just behind her son, shaking with fear, but strangely still, as if she sensed the grove was holding its breath, as if she knew something impossible was happening. And she alone had to stay calm long enough for it to finish. "Bar, you struck the stake a final time." The wire tightened violently, pulling Kito's leg and forcing a cry so small and broken it barely escaped him. The sound cracked through the clearing like a falling branch. The baby's eyes fluttered. His body sagged. He was losing strength fast. Lena's hand flew to her mouth. Tears blurred her vision. No. Hold on, little one," she whispered. Even though her words were swallowed by the dust, Baru froze when he heard that weakened cry. He leaned close, sniffing the baby's wounds, touching him gently with a hand that looked far too big for such delicate comfort. His deep, rumbling breath washed over the trembling calf. Something changed in his eyes, a fierce, terrifying determination that had nothing to do with aggression and everything to do with protection. He looked at Lena. For one impossible second, the silverback and the ranger stared at each other across the broken earth. His gaze was steady, pleading without words. Asking for something he could not do alone, Kito's head dropped into the dust. Masai let out a low, shaking moan. The forest went silent, and somewhere between life and instinct and the ancient laws of survival, a decision hung in the air, one that would bind gorilla, rhino, and human together in a moment the world would never forget. For a long, breathless moment, no one moved. The grove felt frozen in time, wrapped in a stillness so complete that even the insects seemed afraid to stir. Kito lay on his side, dust settling over his trembling body like a pale veil. His eyes fluttered halfway open, unfocused, glassy with pain. Masai lowered her head until her horn almost touched his face. soft moan rising from deep in her chest, a sound no mother should ever have to make. She nudged him gently, begging him to rise, but he could not respond. The wire held him like a cruel hand, digging deep into the tender skin of his leg, shining dully in the early light. And standing over him, broad-shouldered and breathing hard, Baru the Silverback remained still as stone, waiting for something: strength, help, or a miracle. Lena swallowed the fear choking her throat. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she stepped closer, boots sinking into the spongy soil. The camera still rolled in her hand, but she barely noticed the blinking red light. All she saw was the baby, the wound, the wire, the helpless mother. And the enormous gorilla who had done the unthinkable, risked his life to protect a creature he did not know. The sight felt sacred, like something that didn't belong in the real world. Her breath shivered in her chest. "It's okay. It's okay, boy. I'm here," she whispered, though she knew neither Rhino nor gorilla understood her words. But they understood tone. They understood fear. They understood hope. Baru's dark eyes locked onto hers with startling intensity. And for a moment, Lena felt like she was standing before an ancient judge, a guardian of the forest, asking if he could trust her. His breath came in deep, heavy waves, his nostrils flaring, chest rising and falling like the slow rhythm of thunder. He didn't move aside. He didn't threaten her. He simply watched. Lena held his gaze, her voice low and steady. "Let me help him," she whispered. "Please." Something in Baru softened, not much, but enough. He shifted his weight and stepped slightly to the side, giving her a narrow path to the snare. Masai tensed immediately, but the gorilla raised a massive hand toward her in what looked almost like a calming gesture. Lena felt goosebumps rise across her arms. She had seen silverbacks communicate with their own kind, but never like this. Never with another species. Kneeling beside Kito, Lena gently touched the wire. The baby whimpered weakly, his leg twitching as a fresh wave of pain pulsed through him. Easy. "I know," she murmured, fighting the burn of tears in her eyes. "Hold on, little one. Stay with me." The snare was tightly coiled, threaded through a hidden metal anchor hammered deep into the ground. With hands steady from years of training, but shaking from the weight of the moment, she slipped a pair of cutters from her pocket and began working through the twisted knots of wire. Baru crouched beside her, his face inches from hers, his breath warm against her arm. It didn't frighten her. Somehow, impossibly, it comforted her. He watched every movement she made, as if trying to learn, as if willing her to hurry. Masai paced behind them in tight, anxious circles, torn between fear and trust. Her heavy body trembling with every step. Minutes felt like hours. Lena's fingers ached. Sweat dripped down her forehead, soaking into the dust. Twice the cutters slipped, scraping against the wire with a harsh metallic screech. Each time, Kito flinched. Each time, Baru rumbled a deep warning, a reminder of the stakes. Finally, one of the inner coils gave way with a faint snap, then another, and another. The tension in the wire loosened just enough for Lena to slip in the blades and cut the last tight strand. The snare sprang open with a sharp jolt. Kito collapsed fully into the dirt. Freed but exhausted, Lena's breath caught. Masai rushed forward with a choked cry, brushing her horn against her son, nudging him, urging him to rise. But Kito's legs shook violently when he tried to stand. He stumbled once, twice, then fell again, landing hard on his side, before Lena could move. Baru stepped in. He reached out with slow, careful movements that felt impossibly gentle for such a powerful animal, and placed one huge hand behind Kito's shoulder. He nudged the calf upward, supporting him the way a silverback might support his own young. Kito blinked. His ears twitched. He let out a soft grunt of confusion as Baru lifted him just enough to steady his balance. Masai froze, stunned by what she was seeing. Her massive head lowered slowly, her breath huffing through her nostrils as she watched the gorilla help her child stand. She approached them with a caution so delicate it seemed impossible for a creature of her size. When she reached Baru, instead of pushing him away, she touched her horn to his shoulder lightly, almost tenderly as if thanking him in the only way she could. A silent language passed between them. A moment deeper than instinct. A moment older than fear. Lena could hardly breathe. Tears blurred her vision as she watched Kito, trembling but alive, lean against his mother's leg. Baru stepped back, chest heaving, dust clinging to his fur. He looked at the baby one last time, a long, searching look that felt like a promise. Or a prayer, and then he turned toward the forest. He didn't wait for gratitude. He didn't wait for safety. He simply walked away, his broad back disappearing slowly into the shadows of the trees. In seconds, he was gone. A legend fading home. Masai nudged Kito gently, helping him take his first shaky steps. The baby whimpered but moved forward inch by inch. The morning light washed over them, turning the dust in the air into golden sparks. Lena lowered her camera, realizing her hands were shaking too much to keep recording. She pressed a hand to her heart. Steadying herself as the realization swept over her, she had just witnessed something the world would struggle to believe. A gorilla, a rhino. A baby saved by unexpected courage. As Masai led her son into the sunlight, her shadows stretched long across the ground, merging into one. The grove fell quiet behind them. The dust settled. The wind whispered through the leaves as if the forest itself was speaking, carrying a truth that felt old and soft and necessary. Perhaps the wild teaches compassion in ways humanity has forgotten. Perhaps love in the wilderness is not rare but simply unseen. And as the valley returned to its peaceful rhythm, the grove held the memory of a moment when fear broke. Species crossed. And a gorilla reminded the world what courage truly looks like.